Hey there, coin enthusiasts and collectors. Welcome back to the channel, where we explore the fascinating world of currency, numismatics, and the hidden value in your pockets. Today, we're diving deep into a very familiar coin, the 1980 US 1-cent piece. But this isn't just any penny. We're going to explore its history, its value, and whether that little penny could be worth a lot more than you think. So, let's get started. Before we talk about the 1980 penny specifically, let's take a step back and understand where the 1-cent coin came from. The US penny, officially known as the cent, has been in circulation since 1793, and over the years, it has undergone various designs and changes in composition. In 1909, the US Mint introduced a new design featuring the image of President Abraham Lincoln, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner. This design is still in use today, but it has seen some minor tweaks over the decades. In 1980, the 1-cent coin was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that was used from the late 1800s until 1982, when rising copper prices led to a shift in the coin's metal makeup. The 1980 penny, like other coins from this era, carried the familiar Lincoln portrait on the obverse, the front, and the iconic wheat ears design on the reverse, the back. However, by 1980, the reverse had already switched to the memorial design in 1959, marking the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. So, what's so special about the 1980 penny? Well, not much on its own in terms of appearance, but this coin is part of a much larger narrative about US minting practices, inflation, and the evolution of American currency. Now, you might be wondering, is my 1980 penny worth anything today? And the simple answer is, it depends. Most 1980 pennies you find in circulation today are worth exactly 1 cent, about the same as when they were first minted. However, there are a few key factors that can influence the value of a 1980 penny. The condition of the coin is the most important thing to consider. For example, a well-worn penny, one that's seen years of circulation, might only be worth its face value. But, if you have a 1980 penny in mint condition, meaning it has no visible signs of wear and tear, it could be worth a little more to collectors. As of today, a 1980 penny in uncirculated condition can fetch anywhere between 10 and 50 cents, depending on the coin's exact grade. A graded coin by a trusted third-party service like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, can be even more valuable. Some of these higher-grade pennies may even be worth $1 or more, but keep in mind that it's still relatively modest when compared to rarer coins. To break it down, here's a rough estimate of the value of a 1980 penny based on its condition: circulated condition, fine or lower, ***, typically worth around 1 cent; uncirculated condition, MS60 and above, ***, between 10 cents and 50 cents, with some possibly reaching over $1 for high-grade examples. Proof coins ***. Special proof versions of the 1980 penny, which were minted for collectors, can sometimes be worth $3 to $5 in pristine condition. Now, while the 1980 penny is generally worth its face value, there are a few rare anomalies that collectors look for: coins that have unique characteristics, such as errors or mistakes made during the minting process. These types of coins can command a much higher price point. One of the most sought-after varieties of the 1980 penny is the 1980 double die variety. This occurs when the coin's design is struck more than once, creating a noticeable doubling of the image on the obverse or reverse. If you have a 1980 penny with clear, visible doubling on Lincoln's features or the lettering, you could be holding a coin worth hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars. Here, you can see the clear double strike on the Liberty and "In God We Trust" inscriptions. If you find one of these, it's a rare gem, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for such an error coin. Another variation is the mint mark. While the 1980 penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint and doesn't have a mint mark, some coins, such as those struck in Denver or San Francisco, may be more valuable due to the rarity of their production in a given year. While the 1980 pennies from these mints are common, some collectors are very specific about the origins of their collections, so paying attention to the mint marks is always a good idea. While most 1980 pennies aren't going to make you a fortune, the fascination with rare coins, especially those from the 1980s, has played an important role in modern coin collecting. The 1980 penny is part of a broader trend that has made U.S. coinage from the late 20th century increasingly valuable. It marks the tail end of a series of pennies that were made with copper before the shift to zinc-plated steel pennies in 1982. Why does that matter? Well, the copper in those pre-1982 pennies is worth more than their face value in raw metal. In fact, as of today, the copper content in a single penny can be worth more than 1 cent, thanks to the rising price of copper. So, while the 1980 penny may not be a gold mine in terms of rarity, its material value is something collectors keep an eye on, especially as copper prices fluctuate. Some collectors and even investors have started hoarding these older pennies, not because of their numismatic value, but because of the potential value in their metal content. If you're looking to sell or trade your 1980 pennies, there are plenty of options. You can visit a local coin shop, where dealers may appraise and buy your coins. You can also look online, at auction sites like eBay, or use specialized coin dealer platforms to find buyers for rare or high-grade coins. Always do your research before you sell, though. It's a good idea to check the current market trends, get a professional grade if necessary, and make sure you're selling your coin at a fair price. And if you find that you have a truly rare or valuable 1980 penny, don't be afraid to get a certified grading service involved. It could make all the difference in terms of value. The 1980. We're diving into a coin you probably have lying around in your change jar, the 1981 1-cent piece, also known as the 1981 penny. While many people overlook this coin, it's actually got an interesting history and, believe it or not, could be worth more than just 1 cent under the right circumstances. So, grab your magnifying glass, and let's get into the fascinating world of the 1981 penny. To understand the 1981 penny, let's start with a little history. The US 1-cent coin, known as the penny, has been around since 1793. Over the years, it's gone through many design changes, material shifts, and even undergone minting controversies. But perhaps the most iconic penny design of all time is the Lincoln cent, which was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. That design, created by Victor David Brenner, still graces the front of the penny to this day. However, the reverse has gone through several changes. The 1981 penny, in particular, features the Lincoln Memorial design on the back, which was introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. So, why does 1981 matter? Well, by the time the 1981 penny was minted, the US was in the midst of a significant transition in both coin composition and economic conditions. The early 1980s were marked by rising inflation, economic instability, and a shift in the cost of metals, particularly copper. One important aspect of the 1981 penny that collectors and investors pay close attention to is its composition. The 1981 penny is made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, which was the standard formula for US pennies from 1909 all the way until 1982. This is important because, during this period, the cost of copper was rising, making it more expensive to produce pennies. By 1982, the US Mint made a big change. Due to the rising price of copper, pennies began to be minted with a much cheaper composition of 97.5% zinc, with only a thin copper plating. So, the 1981 penny, being made of nearly pure copper, has more intrinsic metal value than pennies produced just a year later. Because of this, the copper content in a single 1981 penny is worth more than its face value in terms of metal value, which brings us to an important point. When it comes to old copper pennies, the value of the coin's metal can actually surpass the coin's nominal value, depending on copper prices. So, let's get to the big question: what's the value of a 1981 penny today? Most 1981 pennies that you'll come across in your change jar or pocket are probably worth just 1 cent. After all, these are coins that have been in circulation for over 4 decades, so they're not exactly rare. If your 1981 penny is heavily worn, scratched, or faded, it's going to be worth exactly 1 cent. These are the kinds of pennies that are commonly found in circulation and don't hold any significant value beyond their face value. However, if you happen to have a 1981 penny in great condition, one that's been well preserved or even uncirculated, it could be worth more to collectors. Uncirculated 1981 pennies are worth about 10 to 50 cents, depending on their exact condition. And, if you happen to have a 1981 penny that's been professionally graded as mint state, it could sell for even more. An uncirculated, professionally graded 1981 penny could fetch anywhere from 50 cents to $1 or more, especially if it's a high-grade example with no scratches, dings, or discoloration. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Besides the numismatic value, the 1981 penny also has value because of its copper content. As we mentioned earlier, the 1981 penny is made from 95% copper. As the price of copper has fluctuated over the years, the value of the metal in these older pennies has increased. Currently, the price of copper hovers around $4 to $5 per pound, and there's roughly 0.088 ounces of copper in a single 1981 penny. At the current copper price, the metal in each penny could be worth about 2 to 3 cents, twice its face value. While this might not sound like much, when you consider that there are billions of pennies in circulation, it adds up. This has led some people to hoard older pennies, especially those made before 1982, simply for their copper content. While it's not necessarily illegal to melt down pennies for their metal, though it is illegal to destroy them with intent to defraud the US government, many people are holding on to their 1981 pennies as a way to hedge against rising metal prices. While most 1981 pennies are fairly common, there are a few that stand out due to rare minting errors and varieties. A major factor in a coin's value is its rarity, and if you happen to find a 1981 penny with an unusual feature, it could be worth significantly more than its face value. One example is the potential for double die errors. A double die occurs when a coin's design is struck more than once, causing a doubling effect on the text or images. If you find a 1981 penny with noticeable doubling on words like liberty or in God we trust, that could be a rare error coin worth several $100s, or even more, depending on its condition. Other types of minting errors include off-center strikes, die cracks, or misaligned dies. These types of errors are highly sought after by collectors and can add significant value to an otherwise common penny. We're diving into a coin that played a key role in the evolution of US currency, the 1982 1-cent coin, also known as the 1982 penny. If you've ever wondered about its history, its unique composition, and how it might be worth more than just 1 cent, you're in for a treat. Stick around as we uncover the fascinating story behind this little coin and its potential worth today. Let's get started. To understand the significance of the 1982 penny, we need to take a quick look at the history of the US 1-cent coin. The penny, or 1-cent piece, has been in circulation since 1793, and over the years, it has undergone several design and material changes. The most iconic design, however, was introduced in 1909, when Abraham Lincoln's portrait was placed on the obverse of the penny to commemorate the 100th anniversary of his birth. This design, created by artist Victor David Brenner, has remained on the penny ever since. In 1959, a major change came to the penny's reverse. The wheat ears design was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial, which remains the reverse of the coin to this day. But the year 1982 would mark a turning point for the penny, not because of a design change, but due to a shift in its composition that would forever alter the nature of US coinage. 1982 is a pivotal year for the penny because it marks the year when the US Mint officially switched the composition of the coin. Prior to 1982, pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. However, due to rising copper prices, the cost of producing copper pennies became increasingly expensive for the US government. In response, the Mint introduced a new composition for the penny starting in 1982, making it 97.5% zinc, with just a thin copper plating. This change had a significant impact, not only on the production of pennies but also on the penny's intrinsic value. The new zinc pennies were much cheaper to produce, as the price of zinc was far lower than that of copper. However, the transition wasn't as smooth as one might think. The mint actually began producing both the copper-based and the new zinc-based pennies in 1982, making that year an important transitional period. So, how can you tell the difference between the two? The copper-based pennies weigh about 3.11 grams, while the zinc-based pennies weigh only 2.5 grams. If you hold them in your hand, you can feel the difference in weight, and when you look closely, you can also spot the difference in their color. The copper penny has a reddish-brown hue, while the zinc penny is more of a dull grayish tone with a shiny copper coating. Now, let's talk about the most important question: what is the value of the 1982 penny today? Well, it really depends on which version you have and its condition. Let's break it down. Most 1982 pennies you'll encounter are going to be in average condition, meaning they're worn down, scratched, and discolored. These pennies will typically only be worth 1 cent, just like any other penny in circulation. But here's the good news. If you happen to have an uncirculated 1982 penny, particularly one that is in great condition with no wear, scratches, or discoloration, it can be worth significantly more. High-quality uncirculated 1982 pennies can fetch anywhere from 10 to 50 cents, depending on the exact grade and condition. One way to get an accurate idea of the value of your 1982 penny is by having it graded by a professional service. Companies like PCGS or NGC can assess the coin's quality and assign a grade, which will help determine its market value. For instance, an uncirculated 1982 penny with a grade of MS 65 could be worth around $1 to $2, while a perfect, high-grade example could be worth even more. But here's where things get really interesting. While most 1982 pennies are relatively common, there are some rare varieties and errors that make certain 1982 pennies incredibly valuable. Coin errors occur when something goes wrong during the minting process, and these unique coins can fetch prices far beyond their face value. One of the most exciting and valuable errors to look for is the 1982 double die penny. A double die error occurs when the coin is struck more than once by the die, causing the design to appear doubled, especially in the letters and numbers. On the 1982 penny, a notable place to check for this error is the inscription "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." If you notice doubling in these areas, you might be holding a very valuable coin. Another error to look for is the off-center strike, where the die strikes the coin at an angle, causing the design to be misaligned. Off-center coins are highly prized by collectors and can be worth much more than a regular 1982 penny. Minting errors like these are relatively rare, but they can be very valuable, often worth several $100s or more, depending on the severity of the error and the coin's condition. So, if you come across a 1982 penny that looks unusual or has any distinct characteristics, it's always worth examining it closely, and possibly getting it professionally graded. Now, let's talk about the 1982 penny's intrinsic value. The copper-plated zinc penny, which makes up the majority of 1982 pennies, is composed of 97.5% zinc and just 2.5% copper. While the penny's metal value is far less than that of the copper pennies from earlier years, zinc still has some value on the commodities market. Zinc is typically worth a few cents per pound, and the metal content of a zinc penny can range from about 0.01 to 0.02 cents, meaning it's still worth slightly more than face value. The price of zinc fluctuates, but generally, the metal value of a 1982 zinc penny remains low compared to its copper predecessors.